talk about Aqidah, and that is definitely the first and most important thing. But perhaps something that has to be nurtured to accept that Aqidah is the heart. And hence we began talking about this issue of the heart, that how it is really the leader of the body. And we mentioned how it influences the rest of the body. We talked about the fact that how the heart is very temperamental, very vulnerable. It can change at a moment's notice. It's not very stable. We talked about the fact that how the heart itself is open to being presented by many trials. And these trials, they come in our lives and they put a black mark on our heart. And sometimes when we do the good deeds, a white mark is placed on our hearts. And all this is according to a hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Different hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then we began talking about the issue of what the heart is comfortable with and what it is not comfortable with. And we talked at length about that as well. Today, brothers, we want to move on to the heart and how it is influenced by the various ups and downs in our lives, and how to nurture it through these ups and downs. In a hadith, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, مَا مِنَ الْقُلُوبِ قَلْبٌ إِلَّا وَلَهُ سَحَابًا, that there is no heart except that it has a cloud hovering over it. There's a cloud. So every heart, Muslim, non-Muslim, every heart has a cloud that comes over it. كَسَحَابَةِ الْقَمَرِ, just like the clouds that cover the moon. Just like the clouds that cover the moon. بين القمر مضيء إذ علت عليه سحابة فأظلم. It so happened that while the moon was radiating, while the moon was shining, that suddenly a cloud overtook it. A cloud covered it, and it became dark. It became dark. إذ تجلت عنه فأضاء. Then suddenly the cloud dispersed and there was light again, and then it radiated its light again. The moon, it radiated its light again. So what Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was saying in the hadith is that every heart has a cloud that comes over it from time to time. Just like the cloud of, as you see when you go out on a moonlit night, you'll see just like a cloud that covers the moon. And when it covers the moon, when the cloud comes over the moon, it becomes dark. You don't see that much light anymore. You barely even see the light behind the cloud. And then it becomes dark. And then the cloud moves on, the cloud disperses, and then you have light again. So what the hadith is pointing out, brothers, is that the fact that, in our lives, the heart has a light. Allah, whether it is the light of faith or the light of the fitrah, if you consider the non-Muslims, it's the light of the fitrah. That is there in every heart. There is, for the believers, there's a light of iman, there's a light of faith that is in the heart. And this light that is there, it naturally gravitates towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to know Allah, to obey Allah, and so on. This is the natural nature of the heart, through the fitrah, through its natural nature. And then the heart of the believer is even more responsive because it is already doing some of the things that are beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is in an ayah in Surah An-Nur. Actually, the surah is named after this ayah. I think it's ayah 35, 36 in that area. In Surah 25, Surah 25, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Surah 24 actually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks, the famous ayah that Dar-us-Samawati wal-ard, in this ayah, without going into the depth of this ayah, but the general meaning of this ayah is that Allah is the source of light in the heavens and the earth. And this light is in a niche. There's a lamp that's in a niche, and this lamp that is there, there's a wick inside the lamp. There's a glass covering, and inside that there's a wick, and then when it is lighted up, it's like a bright star. And this light is, and the glass that's outside it also lights up, without any fire, and so on. So the point being that this is light upon light, light of the wick inside and the light of the glass that's there. And what happens is that the light is there. So the same idea is applied to the human heart, that the light of the fitrah is there, and then when the revelation comes, the Quran, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, it is like light upon light. And that light comes, and that light illumines the path for the human being, for the believer in particular. So the more that happens, the more they can see which is the right way to go, what is the right way to adopt. But then what happens is that a cloud covers it. In our lives, we get bouts of sin or forgetfulness or depression or episodes of drifting away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or sadness. All these things, they temporarily cloud our view. They cloud our iman. They cloud our way of thinking. And so what happens is that during this particular time, we are encouraged to come back, because we know one thing, that moon, that light that is just like the moon, the cloud will disperse. It's not permanent. Similarly, these clouds that come in our lives, they will also disperse. Those down times we may be depressed or down or frustrated, and we feel that weakness or sadness, the hardships that are there. Those clouds will disperse, they will move on. But the light is what's going to stay. The important thing is that when those periods, the down times, when they come in our lives, that we stick to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. That we don't go outside of the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. In a hadith of Rasul ﷺ, he said, لِكُلِّ عَمَلٍ شِرَّةٍ وَلِكُلِّ شِرَّةٍ فَتْرَةٍ. That every time of action, time when we are very active, very dynamic, in every one of those times there's a period when you feel a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm. Like a new halaqah is given, or something is, or an Arabic class is being given, or a Quran class is being given, and you're really motivated. You really want to learn the entire Quran, you really want to learn the entire Arabic language, you really want to learn. In the beginning, there's that enthusiasm, there's that energy. لِكُلِّ عَمَلٍ شِرَّةٍ وَلِكُلِّ شِرَّةٍ فَتْرَةٍ. But every period like that, where you have the enthusiasm, the energy, a time comes when you begin to feel the weakness. And you begin to feel a lack of interest. The energy, it wanes. Then the Rasul ﷺ, he's describing a human situation. It happens with all of us. There's sometimes we're really up, we really feel very motivated, we're going to do everything for Islam. But then there are other times when we're feeling down and not as active and not as energetic and not as enthusiastic, not as motivated, not as driven, and so on. Now Rasul ﷺ goes on in the hadith. He said, فَمَنْ كَانَتْ فَتْرَتُهُ إِلَى سُنَّتِي فَقَدْ أَفْلَحَ وَمَنْ كَانَتْ إِلَى غَيْرِ ذَلِكَ فَقَدْ هَلَكَ. He said that, so whoever in those down times, whoever the person's actions, if they are in line with my sunnah, then they will be successful. They'll be prosperous. But if their actions in those downtimes are other than my sunnah, they're in line with other than my sunnah, then they will perish. Then they will perish. So the issue is that this is when a lot of us, we go astray. When those downtimes come, we almost like undo everything that we have built up. You know, like we may be, like for example, we might be going along reading, one juz a day, or 1 page a day, or 2 pages, whatever our regimen is of Quran, we're reading that. All of a sudden something happens in our life, we lose our job, or we get into an accident, or somebody was rude to us, mean to us, we feel really bad, depressed. Then we stop reading the Quran. We don't read it as we used to read it. Now, and some of us even stop praying. Some people even, go to the extent of saying, why is Allah against me? Why is Allah always picking on me? وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. We seek Allah's protection from even getting a thought like that. So, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying, when you have those downtimes, they're going to happen. This is just human nature. There are going to be the up times, there are going to be those peak times, and then there are going to be the valleys. You're going to have those times. That's a given. But during those down times, stick to my sunnah. Then you'll be successful. So the idea is that, okay, you're reading a juz of the Quran every day. Now, because something happened, you're feeling down, at least read half a juz, at least read a quarter, at least read a page a day. Don't just totally abandon the Quran. Stick to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Stick to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if you go outside of that and just get totally depressed and you start sleeping and you don't feel like doing anything and you feel lazy and you just go away from the masjid, you don't want to see the Muslim brothers, you don't want to be around the Muslims and so on, going away from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, that's when you're going to destroy yourself. That's when you're going to perish. That's when you're going to undo. For the last year, you gradually build yourself up. A page a day, then 2 pages, then 5 pages, then 10 pages a day, and then 20 pages a day. You built yourself up gradually, but all of a sudden, boom. Because of something happened in your life, you failed an exam. You just totally crash. And that's not what's good. In Surah Al-Nahl, ayah 92, Surah 16, ayah 92, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala points this out. He says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّتِي نَقَضَتْ غَزْلَهَا مِنْ بَعْدِ قُوَّةٍ أَنْكَافًا. And don't be like the lady who weaved her yarn. Don't be like the lady who weaved her yarn, don't be like the lady who unravels the yarn that she had spun, to make some clothing. Don't be like that lady who unravels all of that into threads after it was, like a bona fide piece of clothing. Don't be like her. In other words, don't undo all the things that you've worked so hard to build up. Don't do that. So, brothers, the question comes up, okay, so how do I deal with this nafs of mine, with this heart of mine, to take care of it? Because yes, I know that there's going to be those ups and there's going to be those downs. So during these down times, during these times, how do I take care of my heart? There are 4 things. The first thing is that whenever you begin to do anything in Islam, you do it gradually. You don't take like abrupt actions, and you don't take actions that you want to do everything at once. Like when you're thirsty, just a simple example, when you're thirsty, do you drink a pail of water or a tub of water, or do you drink a glass of water? You drink a glass of water. And even that, you sip it, one sip at a time when you begin drinking the water. You just don't drink the whole tub, otherwise you're going to choke, you're going to drown. The same thing when it comes to this deen. It's very important to go into it gradually. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said in the hadith that, saddidu wa qaribu. Do as much as you can of following the truth. And waqaribu. And if you're unable to do it to its full extent, then come as close to it as you possibly can. Come as close to it as you possibly can. وَغْدُ وَرُوحُ وَشَيْءٌ مِنَ الدُّلْجَةِ. And so go in the morning or go in the afternoon, like travel. And this journey to Allah, travel in the morning or travel early, or travel in the afternoon, or travel at a part of the night. Notice how he didn't say travel at night. This is or part of the night. And then he says, وَالْقَسْطَ الْقَسْطَ تَبْلُغُ. And do things in moderation, and you will arrive. You will get there. So the point that Rasul was making is that, do as much as you possibly can. If you cannot, then come as close to it as possible within reason, and do things early. Get on the ball early. But do things in moderation. Don't do everything just at once, because you like all of a sudden you start doing it, you start doing so much, and then just as suddenly you stop doing it. Abruptly you stop doing everything. You started reading the Quran, you're reading a juz a day, and you do it for a week, and then after that all of a sudden you read no juz. You read not even a page from the Quran. Because that's how the nafs is. So it'll eventually get tired, it'll get bored. It's just human nature. This is how we are. It'll happen. So Rasulullah ﷺ is saying, the first thing in managing our souls with this care and tact and wisdom is to go gradually in things. As a matter of fact, one time Rasulullah ﷺ, he said, "Inna ad-deena yusr, wa la yushad ad-deen illa ghalaba." There's a hadith in Bukhari that Rasulullah he said that this deen is easy. But anybody who overburdens himself or herself, this deen will overwhelm him. It'll overwhelm him. And hence you see, brothers, you see this so often, that sometimes, like when people initially, they either become Muslim or they become serious about their Islam. Muslims who are born in Islam, they become serious about their Islam. As they become serious, they want to do everything under the sky. They want to do everything. Everything. And what happens is that after a month, you don't see them anywhere. They're not in the masjid. And then a year passes, you never see them around. And then in a year, 2 years, 3 years, you happen to go to the mall and you're buying something and you happen to bump into the person. And then you say to them, "What happened to you? You were, mashallah, you were so particular, you were so religious, you were so practicing. And what happened?" Well, it was too much for me. Why was it too much for you? Because you dove into it. And you overburdened yourself. You didn't go into it gradually. The Quran, how many years was it revealed in? Was it just revealed in 1 minute? The whole book given to the Prophet ﷺ at one time? No. It took 23 years. 23 years. It came gradually down. Gradually. So, one time the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Inna hadha din mateen. فَأَوْغِلُوا فِيهِ بِرِفْقٍ." This deen is very heavy, it's very weighty. It's strong, but it's very weighty. So go into it gently. Go into it at ease. So being gradual is the first thing. The second thing is to be balanced in your life. To be balanced in your religious life, in your recreational life, in your spiritual life, in your work life, in your educational life, your physical life, whatever. Just have a balance in your life. Have a balance. All of you know the story of Salman radiallahu anhu. Remember Salman radiallahu anhu? He went to Abu Dhar, and he went to Abu Dhar's house, and Abu Dhar wasn't there, and Dhar, his wife, she was there. So he saw her, but he saw her in tattered clothing. So he said, "What's up with you? Why are you in such bad clothing and such tattered, torn clothing?" So she said, "Your brother," talking about Abu Dhar, said, "Your brother has no need for this dunya. Your brother doesn't care about this dunya." So he said, "Okay, where is he?" She said, "He's out." He said, "Okay, I'll wait." So when Abu Dhar came home, he talked to Abu Dhar about how there should be a balance. And so Abu Dhar said, let me make some food for you. So he went and he made some food for Salman. And he brought the food for Salman. They sat down. And so Salman said, "Go ahead, start, and I'll start eating with you." So Abu Dhar said, "No," and he saw him, "I'm fasting." So Salman said, "Wallahi ma ana bi'akil hatta ta'kul." I swear by Allah, I'm not eating until you eat with me. So he broke his fast and he started eating. So then the night time came, and as soon as the night, after praying Salat al-Isha, Abu Dhar went and he started making Salah, the night prayer, the Tahajjud. Right after Isha, he started making Tahajjud. So as he hadn't started making the Tahajjud yet, but he went to do the Tahajjud. And Salman saw that. So Salman said, No, come here. Sleep. No. So they discussed it, argued a little bit. So finally Abu Dhar went to sleep. Then Abu Dhar saw that he thought Salman had gone to sleep. So he quietly woke up and he went to go and pray again. Abu Dhar was awake, Salman was awake. He said, come, sleep. No. So again, Abu Dhar came and he started sleeping again. And then Salman woke up at the last third of the night. And he woke up Abu Dhar and he said, "Al-an qum wa salli." Now get up and make the salah. The night prayer. Get in the last third of the night. Get up, because that's the time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes down to the heavens of the world. Allah asks that whoever wants forgiveness, seek forgiveness, I'll forgive them. Whoever wants anything, I'll give it to them. Whoever makes dua, I'll accept it. And so on. So he said, now get up and go ahead and make your salah. So Abu Dhar went ahead, because he is the host and this is his guest, and he's treating him as nicely as he possibly can. He's being patient. Here's a guest who's telling me what to do in my own house. He's, quiet, patient, nice, gentle. But in the morning after Fajr, he goes to the Prophet ﷺ and he tells him what Salman did to me last night. What Salman, he came and he did all these things, and so, but then he told the Prophet ﷺ what Salman said. And Salman had told Abu Dhar, after Abu Dhar had finished praying the Tahajjud and just before Fajr, Salman told Abu Dhar that, "Inna li rabbika alayka haqqan, wa li nafsika alayka haqqan, wa li ahlika alayka haqqan, fa'a'ti kulla dhi haqqin haqqa." He said that, look, your Lord has a right upon you. Your nafs, your soul, has a right upon you. Your family has a right upon you. So give each one its due right. So Abu Dhar, he was upset. He came and he complained to the Prophet ﷺ about Salman and what happened last night. And he told him, "Look, this is what he told me. And you know what the Prophet ﷺ said? He said, Sadaqa Salman. Salman is telling you the right thing. Balance. Balance. There has to be a balance in your life. There has to be a part like to read the Quran, a part for salah, a part for taking care of your family, a part for yourself to reflect, a part to call upon Allah to make dua. There has to be a balance in your life. You know, there are certain responsibilities upon us to earn for our family, to make sure we provide housing and the home and all those things. There are responsibilities to bring up our children and so on. So there's that part. Then there's the part that for ourselves, we're self-edification and learning about this deen and so on. And then there's the part with our Lord. You know, doesn't mean that you just sit in a corner, but you work for the sake of Islam, to establish Islam, not only within yourself, but in your community, in your family, and so on. One time, one of the tabi'een, you know, his name was Wahab ibn Munabbih, rahimahullah, he said that, you know, it is written in the wisdom of Ali Dawood, the family of Dawood, that every intelligent person should be alert to 4 different times in their life. To 4 different times in their life. The first time that they should be very cognizant and alert to is the time that they call upon their Lord. They're having a private conversation, just them and Allah. Just the person and Allah. They're having a private conversation. Sa'atin yunaji fiha rabbah. That a time when they just are in a private conversation with Allah, direct conversation with Allah, talking to Allah. And a time, number 2, the time when they are auditing themselves, when they're kind of checking all what they did last night, what they did yesterday, was it right, was it not right? They're auditing themselves, taking an account of themselves. That's the second time. The third time is when they sit with their brothers, and those brothers are sincere and they point out to them their mistakes and how their souls really are, to kind of advise them. That's the third time. And the fourth time, he said, is a time when the person spends time with his nafs and its pleasures and his desires. This is one of the tabi'een. You know, this is the second generation, right? Second best generation. He's saying, and the fourth time is to spend time with your nafs and its desires, and, you know, in halal things and whatever is decent, to spend time with it, with your nafs and its desires in halal and decent things, because this is the time that will help you to deal with those other 3 times, and will help you to rejuvenate your heart. Balance. Balance. The third thing to manage our hearts is to always seek the assistance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Constantly remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Through reading the Quran, that gives you direction in your life, to reading the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, reading his seerah, that gives you direction in your life, how you should manage yourself. Through dhikr meaning, you know, the various formula that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given us, you know, not only through our tongues, but in our hearts and in our actions, to do work for Islam, to establish Islam. And dua. Dua is another one, you know, that where we keep in touch with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to be around those people who are practicing Islam. وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ وَلَا تَعْدُ عَيْنَاكَ عَنْهُمْ تُرِيدُ زِينَةَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. You know, be patient with those who call upon their Lord morning and evening, wanting nothing but His face, for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't look beyond them. This is Surah Al-Kahf. Surah Al-Kahf, Surah 18, Ayah 28. So, living in a community, being part of a community, establishing a community. This is very important for us to manage our souls. You can't do it while you're by yourself. We have to be with each other, to help each other. And the fourth thing is to understand yourself. You have a certain personality. You have a certain inclination to do different things. You have certain weaknesses, you have certain areas that you have to work on. And there's certain things that are your strengths. Among the Sahaba, you had people who preferred a very abstemious life, very poor life. But then there were others who were rich. Like, there's Abu Bakr and Uthman and Umar, and many of the Sahaba, they were like millionaires by our time, considering, compared to our time. They were very rich, but yet they practiced this deen. Every one of them had different talents. Some of them, like Khalid ibn Walid, was leading general. Others, like Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, was a scholar. Aisha radiallahu anha was a scholar. Each one of them had different talents. Umar radiallahu anhu was very particular about enjoining what is right and forbidding what is evil and making sure every thing was done. Uthman radiallahu anhu was very devoted to the Quran, extremely shy. As the Rasul said that the angels were shy to be in his company. Can you imagine? The angels were shy to be in the company of Uthman radiallahu anhu. SubhanAllah. Ali was known for his justice, that how fair he was and so on. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was known for his practice of the deen and leading people. Each one of them had different things. Similarly, today, each one of us has to understand ourselves. We can't be just like everybody else. Each one of us has different talents. Somebody reads the Quran really well. Somebody is knowledgeable Islamically. Somebody is a good organizer. Somebody is a good manager. Somebody is good in PR and marketing. Somebody is good in fundraising. Somebody is good in teaching. Somebody is good at supervising. Somebody is a good artist as far as graphic arts and so on. Somebody can design very good. Somebody is worked good with their hands. Somebody is very good with their mind. And so on. Everybody has different talents. And we have to understand ourselves. Like Sufyan al-Thawri, rahimahullah, he's one of the famous scholars of Islam. One time he was riding his camel or horse. And it was his practice that he used to love sweets. Rahimahullah, he used to love sweets. He was one of the greatest scholars of this deen. But he used to love sweets. And he used to love meat. So, whenever he would travel, he would carry, a good portion of sweets and meat with him. This is because he understood himself. He knew that in order for him to concentrate and focus, he had to have a certain amount of sweets and he had to have a certain amount of meat, So somebody, caught him, looking and talking to him that he's a scholar and he's eating sweets and he's eating meat. Of course, all halal. And there's nothing wrong with what he was doing. But they were surprised that he's a scholar. They expected, like these days, if you do any work for Islam, people think it should be done free. Anything that's you teach the Quran, no payment. You teach the Hadith, you teach Islam. You do Islamic work, it must be all free. So just like that, they thought, oh, he's a scholar, so he doesn't eat. And he doesn't, he's totally away from this dunya and so on. No, but we're not instructed to be so abstemious, so abstinent of the dunya that we don't partake of its good things. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to eat, good things, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's halal, it's just good. So anyways, somebody caught him and they approached him like that. And so he said, he's referring to his animal. Actually, he's referring to himself, but he talked about his animal. Through the animal, he's talking about himself. He said that, إِنَّ الدَّابَّ إِذَا أُحْسِنَ إِلَيْهَا عَمِلَتْ. You see this animal? That I'm riding? If you're good to it, it'll work. It'll do the work. So he's talking about the animal, but he's really talking about himself. SubhanAllah, you see how the intelligence of these people, how they work and how they talk. SubhanAllah, he didn't say anything haram. He talked in a very nice way, but he gave a message. And this is why Hassan al-Basri, another one of the tabi'in, Hassan al-Basri, he said, "Nufusukum matayakum ila rabbikum." Your souls are your rides to your Lord. Your souls are your rides to your Lord. فَأَصْلِحُوا مَطَايَاكُمْ تُوصِلُكُمْ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكُمْ. So, so make sure your rides are, you've taken care of your rides, you've made it, you've taken good care of them, you've taken good care of your rides so that they will take you to your Lord. They will connect you with your Lord. So, understanding ourselves is also very important. If we want to manage ourselves, the first thing is to be gradual, the second thing is to be balanced, the third thing is to always seek assistance from the revelation, from the Quran, from the Sunnah, through zikr, through dua. And zikr, remember, is not just the tongue, it's also the zikr of the heart, through believing the right things and through actions, and dua, always making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because as Rasulullah said, إِنَّمَا يَنْصُرُ اللَّهُ هَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ, Allah will only help this ummah by virtue of بِدَعْوَتِهِمْ وَصَلَاتِهِمْ وَإِخْلَاصِهِمْ, by virtue of their du'as, and by virtue of their salah, and by virtue of their sincerity. This is how Allah will help. So, brothers and sisters, I'll finish with that for today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to enrich our hearts and help us to learn more and help us to become committed to establishing this deen in our lives. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum.